All right, Sebastian, man, switching gears. You were there with me this morning before the game. We were at the Ritz-Carlton enjoying enjoying our official visit, I guess. We were out there. I didn't get all the treatment everybody else, getting wine and dine, man. But what a great facility. They do such an incredible job with those visits. Shout out to Kenzie Rizzi, Tia Joseph, really everybody in recruiting, the job they do. I can only imagine what it's like for the players. But being there, being able to talk to these kids, be around the environment, seeing what it's like, just pick up the vibes, I guess, seeing some of the body language, seeing some of the little things that it's hard to see when you're just reading stories. What did you take from overall, before we get into specific players, from this official visit weekend?
I mean, first of all, being able to see, and everyone knows how much of a monster Mario is at recruiting, but being able to see that in person, how much he focuses on the relationships and really being one-on-one with the players, it's a really great thing to see as not only a coach that's bringing in players, but a coach that you want to have to lead men, right? It was really great to be able to see him work and just every single player rave about Mario Cristobal and the staff and how much they really connect with each of the players. And when it comes to a lot of these players, they had glowing reviews about Miami going up in their recruitment. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these guys kind of lock down or even commit in the coming weeks.
Yeah, let's go through it here real quick before we get to the list. Tur 30 Will wants to know who picks who you interview in storm sessions. Don't believe one's been posted in a month. I wish you'd do with Chase Smith. We could put him on the list. It hasn't been a month. It's been like, I think, like a week and a half because one of our producers was on vacation. But we have one in the can. Great interview with Mark Campbell. I believe that'll be coming out probably on Monday. So like and subscribe to Storm Sessions. It's my official show with the University of Miami, interviewing some of these great student athletes. Got a ton of baseball ones in the can. Of course, football will continue to pick up, and that'll probably be the majority here in the summer because there's so many great players to interview. So Storm Sessions, check that one out. And Mark Campbell will be the next up. Great kid, great interview. So I'll just go off the visit list one by one. And read nothing into the order. I believe this is actually ranked in terms of stars. So I'm just going to go down the list. Jackson Canwell. This was somebody who he was gone before we got there. I think he left like first flight in the morning. So he was out the door, but you heard his interviews, talking to some people who's loved the visit. No issues there. Fully locked in. Really, I think the big impact from him is being a recruiter on the team, because you heard Jordan Campbell talk about, man, we got some serious commitments. Makes you realize we can win with this team. Talk about some of the offensive linemen talking about him. I heard a parent telling people like, hey, man, you saw these offensive linemen, how big they are. I just think having someone like, Cantwell in the fold has a broader impact than just what he means to the offensive line and, the right tackle position.
Yeah, with Cantwell, his name seemed to be brought up by nearly all of the recruits, especially the O-linemen. I think that it's telling when Jordan Campbell talks about how all the commits kind of got together, and he looks at all of them and sees like, wow, this is really a team. This is something that I want to lock it down. And obviously he shut down his official visits today after that. And I think we discovered it's Kolojay today. Kolojay?
Yeah. Kolojay. Right? Kolojay.
Yeah, Kolojay.
Kolojay, I believe. Kolojay.
Yeah.
Kolojay. Breck Kolojay.
Kolojay, yeah. He spoke very highly about being with Jackson Cantwell a lot and spoke very highly about Miami in general. So that's one that seems to be trending in the right direction. And again, Jackson Cantwell was the #1 player in the 2026 class. So being able to have that as kind of the centerpiece to bring in other guys is something really great to see.
And let's go right there to Breck Kolojay, because he's one of, to me, the guys we should be talking about here coming out of this weekend. Got the full court press. Like you mentioned, Jackson Cantwell. Kolojay talked about the relationship with Jackson Cantwell, said he's one of the smartest recruits he's ever been around. I'd see this one go in the right direction for Miami. Really, the only thing you're looking at here is his visit to Georgia, which he wants to take and is going to take. So you got to see how that goes. But, man, this is an impressive kid. You watch the film. I think he's a plug-and-play offensive guard. Easy 4-star all day. I think he's on the border as a low 4-star on the composite. To me, he's a no-brainer 4-star, easy at guard, easy evaluation. Again, he could probably start next year 4 Power 4 teams at the guard position. A couple of things with recruiting that I look for, just being around this game for a long time, following it, being more involved lately, is I look at kind of geography, demographics, right? And then I look at relationships with players on the team or in the recruiting class. Those are often big, big drivers of what ultimately happens. With Kolojay, first of all, just being around him and his family, kind of learning more about him, I don't see, geography and demographics, all that being a negative factor, right? He is somebody who's really a city guy, and that's something I think you pick up when you're at these kind of events, talking to people. He's a city guy. He lives in Denver now. His dad moves around for work. I didn't get the sense that the family would be a hindrance to him coming. And in fact, I got the opposite impression, that they were extremely excited about the Miami visit. His sister was on the visit, who's a big, influence on him and someone he really looks up to. I heard Miami's kind of her dream school, right? So you got that impression just being around the family that they could easily fit in and would want to be in a place like Miami. He talked, and then secondly, on the player side, he talked about how Jackson, as you mentioned, Jackson Canwell, he was around. He's like, look, this guy's one of the smartest guys I've ever been around. Me and him on a 3 technique on a double team would be scary, right? Things like that. Now, Jackson Canwell was pushing him to commit and just shut it down, not go to Georgia. And he said something along the lines, or at least he told the media something along the lines like, hey, our processes are different. Of course, Jackson Canwell, even though he's only taken this one OV to Miami and will hopefully only take one OV, with Kolojay, he wants to take that OV to Georgia. Cantwell did the unofficial to Georgia before picking Miami. So I think Kolojay is in a similar place, and he wants to take that visit. But, as we sit here today, just like Cantwell was before the Georgia visit, I think Miami is the leader in the clubhouse and has a lot of things working in their favor with how hard they've recruited him, their reputation with offensive line, the growing relationship with Kolojay and Jackson Canwell and other players on Miami's offensive line. He said he looks to how he fits in. He thought he fit in very well. And just, again, the family dynamic, the type of kid he is. I see all these pieces fitting for Miami. You just got to get through this period right here. So I don't know if you got the same impression, Sebastian.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he still has his 2 official visits to Georgia and Tennessee. If I were to pick one to be a bit more worried about, it would be Georgia. I think it's going to be a Georgia and Miami battle coming down the line here. And he has no commitment date really set. So obviously, as he said, it's a different process to Jackson Cantwell, right? He's going to be taking his time with this, even though it does seem like his family really liked Miami in that sense, wanted to kind of nudge him in that direction. So I think that, again, he'd be a great piece to add. Watching his film right here, you see that he's able to do all the necessary things of a Miami offensive lineman, and you get him to pair with this class that you have. If he wants to commit, Miami's not saying no. So,
yep, no, looking forward to seeing this one play out. But if you're asking my big takeaways coming out of this weekend, Kolojay will be right there at the top. Another one that we should get to here is Jordan Campbell. This is a linebacker from Miami Northwestern. I believe he's from Carroll City, Miami Gardens. He shouted out pretty much every team or every part of Miami-Dade in one of his answers. Talking about Homestead. He knows Homestead well. He knows the whole area, man. This guy's been around now at Miami Northwestern, and I believe he also played in Broward earlier in his career as well. So this guy, again, well-traveled Jordan Campbell, but seeing him in person, obviously he told you that he was locking down his recruitment. He's going to be Miami Hurricane. He's not going to take other visits. We'll see how that plays out, but I have no reason to doubt that. There you see the speed on this highlight, man. Look at how fast this dude is. I got to say, seeing him in person, seeing him interact, seemed like a very sharp kid, presented well. Guy, great size. I think he fits in very much with how Heatherman wants his linebackers to look physically. He wants length. He wants size. He wants athleticism and speed. And he's not running from raw players. In fact, my understanding is he wants guys that have the talent and have instincts, and he can teach them how to play his defense more so than getting the finished product that might be lacking in the length and the size. He also likes pass rush, which you see in these highlights. Jordan Campbell can't get after the passer as well. So I was overall very impressed with Jordan Campbell, and I'm glad that, now that I've seen him, and I've seen him at camps, I've seen him in games, but now, see him as a rising senior, seeing how much he's filled out. I am very happy that it seems like he's shutting down his recruitment going to the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, as you say, he shut down his recruitment. I believe he did have visits planned to Nebraska, Missouri, and Army, I believe. But as he told us, he shut those down. And on Coach Heatherman specifically, Jordan Campbell spoke extremely highly of him, even saying that he's basically like a father to him now. And for a guy that's only been in here for how many months has it been since Heatherman's been hired?
Yeah, probably January. Since January, so say 6 months.
Yeah, since January, and obviously Campbell was committed, I believe, before that. So to have a guy make an impression like that in such a quick time frame is something that's really good to see. Something that bodes well for other linebacker recruits, just recruits in general on the defensive side. And he began to even start speaking about how he was trying to recruit some of these other guys on this visit. Spoke very highly about Tyson Bacon, Heze Kent, really trying to bring more talent into this class. And to see a guy like him be trying to be the tone setter on the defensive side, that tone setter, whether it's with his play or with recruitment, is something that you like to see him lock it down, and you want to see him lock it down on the field. So,
yep. No, that was a positive element. Again, if you ask me some of the more positive elements of this weekend that I know about, we'll see how the thing all plays out. But certainly Kolojay, kind of seeing where that's trending right now before his visit. I like that. And then, of course, the Jordan Campbell signing, shutting it down. But very impressive. Both recruits, and happy with the way those are going. So just running through the list here. Bryce Perright, the defensive lineman out of Buford, Georgia, often compared to Ruben Bain, similar size. Seen him in person, size look good. Definitely a defensive end, defensive tackle tweener, but not a bad looking one. Not somebody that you're like, wow, this guy's stumpy or anything like that. He looks the part. He's a highly rated player. Again, kind of presented like a professional in a good way. I would say, I didn't get the sense that Miami was like flying to the top there. Clemson, I could see, even though he didn't commit on that big official visit weekend, him being where he is as a prospect, I could see Clemson, maybe someone else. I didn't get a negative Miami impression, but I didn't get anything that made me, made my ears perk up when it came to Bryce Perright. Again, by the way, this is just my impression based on talking to these kids and Sebastian's impression based on talking to these kids. I will dig in for more information on all these players, and I'll post a bank probably tomorrow or sometime this week with some more information on just how the visit actually went, how we're feeling now that there's been some time to debrief. But right now, just kind of walking out of the visits, these are my instant reactions based on some of the things I heard and saw at the event, not talking to people. So just with that disclaimer, Sebastian, what do you get from Bryce Perright?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly looks the part of a 5-star defensive lineman, and he spoke very highly about Miami. Nothing really that would make you go, yes, we're really trending up here. Kind of just very professional about his business, kind of handled it very well, spoke very highly about the staff, very highly about Jason Taylor and Coach Lewis, spoke very highly about Coach Heatherman. And he's a guy that he's very confident in his abilities, talked about how he could play anywhere the staff asked him to. And basically anywhere on the field they need him to. He's very confident in his ability, and I think that one of the things that really holds weight is Coach Taylor being a Hall of Fame level player, right? Every single player on that side of the ball spoke very highly about how much that means to them, that you have a gold jacket coach trying to get you to come play for him.
Yep. No, look, by the way, I'm seeing some stuff here I want to clear up in the comments. Arab saying, let's clap it up for KB losing another receiver, Jabari Brady. Miami wasn't in on Jabari Brady. I've seen him in person. Where do you go to Missouri? I believe he was not somebody that was a huge priority, and I don't think he should have been. I mean, if there's a priority receiver from that team, in my book, it would have been Jason Lopez. who was really the top receiver for Chaminade. Miami is recruiting very hard. So I don't, that was not really a loss. Maybe you think it should have been a drop or something like that, or should not have been a drop. We should have stayed on him hard, but I think that was, I overall, and we'll get to this with as we get down here, I heard a lot of optimism. And I know you did too, Sebastian, on wide receiver recruiting. So they feel good about where that room is going. We'll see over the next couple of weeks. But Miami's in for some big time players, the Tristan Keyses of the world. What's Vance Spafford from Orange County, the slot receiver. I mean, Miami's in on a bunch of very talented guys. Messiah Hampton, they're still battling there. That one's not done. So plenty of fish left in the on a line, I guess we'll say. And I think there's a lot of optimism on wide receiver. And Brady really was not part of that discussion. Lou Screw saying, contrary to the wild thread on CanesInsight, he's pretty lackluster. I mean, the wild thread, I won't speak for I'm Your Hurricane, who's a connected guy, made that post, but this way it works these days, it's not like kids just commit after their visit, you get a million bad signals. That's usually not how it goes. So this is just a new era you get the best recruiting weekend in the world, and you're not going to know until a little later because of the way NIL is, because of the way all this works out. So I would just say be patient. We'll see. It's June 8th. I have a feeling at the end of this month, certainly at the end of next month, you could be talking about Miami as a very, very good probability to get a top 5 class, but got to let it play out, right? So right now, I think in terms of this weekend, there's a lot of optimism because some of the top targets, and we'll get down the list here, but Breck Kolojay being one who we already talked about, and Jordan Campbell being another, both good visit weekends for both of those guys. A lot of questions on this bill for the House settlement. The House settlement is basically a stopgap. It's not going to survive any kind of legal challenge. This is a settlement. Just for some background, a bunch of there's a class action antitrust suit against NCAA for basically their whole business model, the amateur model and everything else is effectively what's at issue. So the NCAA settled that for, and I'll pull up the exact amount, but an incredibly high amount. And then as part of the settlement of the legal antitrust suit, they put in a framework for college football going forward that was built into the settlement. That's not usually how these things work. You don't make the rules for your sport in a legal settlement. And certainly not without collectively bargaining the athletes, who in this case you're saying are not employees. So bottom line, without getting into too much legalese, this thing is not going to survive any scrutiny. The settlement itself and the new structure of college football is an antitrust violation. So when it gets challenged in the courts, they're going to lose. The NCAA is going to lose. The schools are going to lose. And they know it. So what they're going to do now is they're going to get this settlement in place and then put the pressure on Congress. I think Trump was golfing with the Notre Dame president and the president of the SEC today. That was reported. They're going to put pressure on the political side to make this settlement the law, right? And if that goes into place, now you basically have a modified version of what you have now with the NCAA and the schools still kind of controlling things, no players as employees. The NCAA, the schools will be shielded from antitrust lawsuits going forward if Congress changes the law. And you'll have a salary cap, which is based like 20% of the school's revenue going to the players. Of course, in the NFL, NBA is about 50% going to the players. Colleges will say they need more money going to the schools because that money then goes to pay these other athletes. But I mean, it's all a scam in my view. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to last on the legal side. We'll see how it goes with the political side. I don't know how. I'm not a political forecaster, but we'll see. That's basically what that is. Before we get back into, let's get back into. Oh, by the way, and I should correct the money that for NIL. I said the 20 let's say 20 plus million going to the players. That's not just football players, right? Football might be 15, 16 million of that. You have to pay college baseball, you have to play college basketball, women's and men's. So there's more NIL money going to other places on top of the money that goes to the schools to, I guess, fund these programs, which are money losers. This is what's going to be before Congress. So I would say from my perspective, no one knows how it's going to work. They've done a lot of good things to prepare for this moment. And, we'll see how it goes, but we got time. So we'll be watching this whole thing unfold. I think Miami's going to be in really good shape. going forward because they have a very well organized collective. So getting back to the players, I know that's what folks want to tune in on. James Johnson, defensive tackle. He was the one guy that I didn't get to the interview or see his interview because I left to watch this game, as did you. But talking to people, I don't know what the vibe is on this kid. He powerful player, really good guy from Fort Myers, transferring to Miami Northwestern. All three of them was number one defensive tackle in the country. They have as an athlete Lamar Brown, who's probably the consensus number one defensive tackle. Again, I didn't see the interview, but talking to people, it seems like no one can kind of get a great read on him. I get the sense that if you're talking about defensive tackles, like 5-star defensive tackles, let's put Bryce Perry right in there, even though he's kind of like a Ruben Bain hybrid. I'd say Lamar Brown's the one that has the most juice right now. Not saying it's going to happen, but between Bryce Perry, right, Lamar Brown, and James Johnson right now, and I've not been debriefed by the coaches, so this is all with a grain of salt. I'm going to say Lamar Brown's the one I feel best about, but I could get I could get corrected on that tomorrow. So stay tuned for the bank. Another name I want to talk about who we didn't get to interview is Hezi Kent, who didn't do any interviews. He basically just kind of said, not doing interviews. I'll call everybody on the phone. Nothing to read into that. He was acting totally normal and good with everybody. I think that's just his process. Brunswick, Georgia, right there on the Florida-Georgia border. I get the sense that, not get the sense, it seems to be pretty much common knowledge that Florida and Miami are battling for him. I get the sense there's a lot of local pressure for him to stay in Florida right now. Just kind of, one of those deals where there's things pushing him that direction. Miami had a great visit with him. I see him in person. The guy's absolutely huge. He was walking with the offensive lineman, looked every bit like an offensive lineman, and these were some big offensive linemen. I get the sense there's going to be a battle kind of till signing day. That's my sense of the Hezi Kent sweepstakes. So I don't know if you got the same impressions. That's just kind of
basically everything that you said, I fully agree with. He fully lives up to the size, right? A guy that can be kind of a jumbo tight end offensive line type ordeal. He looked just like the offensive lineman, and he wasn't around small offensive linemen. He was around your Joel Irvins and your big guys there. But I think, and as you were saying, this is going to be something that's not going to really be settled anytime soon. And even with let's say he does commit somewhere, that's something that you're still going to have to monitor all the way to signing day. It's not something that's going to be kind of set in stone there. That's kind of the read I got.
Yeah, the question from Clutch. So it's still worth it to stay signed up for Canes Connection? Absolutely. Canes Connection, not even stay signed in, to sign on. CanesConnection.com/CIS. That's CanesConnection.com/CIS. Still working around the clock to land this great recruiting class, help baseball with the portal, help basketball with the portal, but more than anything, get football up and running to national championship form. This is the best collective on the planet. You want to be part of it. Be on the inside. Don't just let other people do it for you. CanesConnection.com/CIS. Get that /CIS. We should have a private chat maybe coming up this week. I'll talk to some people tonight, but we always like to give you guys those private Zoom calls, giving you the absolute latest, like you're any other kind of booster, right? Stuff that we cannot say in public because we don't want people chopping it up. CanesConnection.com/CIS. But yeah, on Hezi Kent, I think that one is going to go down to the wire. Tyree Green, the safety from Buford, Georgia. Good looking kid as far as size. He to me looks very much like a safety all day. Could play nickel as well. Fast, great athlete. You mentioned playing returner as well because he was a very good running back for Buford. He's got 10.8 speed, I want to say. So he's got very good straight line ability. Plus he can change directions. Good hitter as well. Florida State, Miami, Georgia. Didn't get any kind of impression as far as him, other than he liked the visit. He's very much a man of few words, but seemed like he had a good time. That seems like a recruitment that Miami at least is going to be in. So that one I thought definitely not something I'd move away from. I keep an eye on that one. Jalen Waters, cornerback, he's locked in, committed. Absolutely looks the part. This guy's, his ranking, I think, does not match what you see on film, what you see in person with him. He is a big, big corner. Jontavius Wyman, more of a speedy corner, another commit. Nothing going on there. Darion Coleman, still slight, getting taller, but he's a leader in this class. He's committed, no issues there. Now I want to talk about a guy that is uncommitted and is a major, major target. I know you were there for that interview as well, which was Devin Jackson, the safety out of Orlando. This is a kid with national interest, LSU, Oregon, schools like that. He was committed to UF for a long time, as he was when the highlights came out. Has since decommitted after Will Harris left to Miami. And the sense I get, on top of the fact that this guy's a huge priority, looked good in person, definitely every bit of 6'2", 190, 4.5 verified speed. You see the highlights. Played receiver in the spring game. I mean, just big time talent here. This is what you want your safeties to look like and play like. I got the sense from him. Will Harris, he talked a lot about Will Harris and that relationship. Also mentioned, talked to Jalen Waters, kind of got close to him. Jalen Waters being another former Gators commit who decommitted and went to Miami side after Will Harris left. I could see Jackson following a similar path. I'll wait to get the intel on that one fully, but that one, I think Miami did nothing to hurt themselves on the visit. And the kind of long-term things I'm watching with him, good relationship with Will Harris, more than good relationship with Will Harris, I should say. And then building a relationship with guys like Jalen Waters, who's a fellow DB, who had a similar path in terms of his commitments. And then also Darion Coleman, who he mentioned he was hanging out with, who's a fellow Orlando kid. So that was my view of the Devin Jackson situation.
Yeah, so as you say, that he's we want him to follow that Jalen Waters path of following Will Harris in decommitting from Florida and coming to Miami as Jalen Waters did. So when getting to talk to him, he spoke very highly about Will Harris, kind of just that relationship he has with him, and also the relationship with Jalen Waters. He talks about, I asked him if Jalen Waters was, trying to recruit him, get him to make that decision on Miami. And he said he did. He has a great relationship with Jalen Waters, and how Waters was recruiting him heavily to come to Miami. But at the same time of him decommitting from Florida and kind of just looking Miami's way, other national teams have started to look his way, right? You've got teams like Oregon, LSU, and Nebraska off the top of my head that have extended offers to him. So when you have teams like Oregon, teams like LSU in the mix, it's a guy that's very sought after and you're kind of looking in the right direction for. So I think that Miami is trending up for him. I don't think that it's something that's really going to happen anytime soon. I think that he's in his process. Again, he was committed to Florida for a while there. He's really exploring all of his options now. And it's well, a lot of people want these commitments to be done right here, right now. This is something that's going to take a couple weeks, maybe even months or so. But I think that Miami, at the end of the day, will get it done here.
Yeah, no, this is one to watch for sure. We're talking about major priority with all the tools you want. And again, I think Miami is going in the right direction with this one. So positive weekend with him. Question from Kurt Granger: any player you can see change positions or both sides of the ball? I'm not sure if you're talking about the current team or recruiting, but just from a recruiting standpoint, Hezi Kent, you look at this guy, JJ Pegues or Pegs, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the defensive tackle for Ole Miss, who also played running back, scored a ton of touchdowns this year, also played defensive tackle and got drafted as a kind of a pass rushing defensive tackle. I could see that with Hezi Kent down the line. I can also see him playing tight end the whole time. Be an unusual tight end because he's an offensive lineman size, but that's what he wants to play. And Miami is going to give him every chance in the world. Coach Whittle's the one recruiting him. So we'll see how that all plays out. But he'd be the one that jumps to mind with that kind of freakish capabilities. Going down the line here, Kosi Okpala, edge from Houston, Texas. Really talented pass rusher. Like this visit, but again, I get the sense that Miami was good to get him on campus and get him to visit because I think this is a rising player with tremendous pass rush ability, twitchy, good balance, great bend, just a natural kind of designated pass rusher. But that feels like a Texas school to me, whether it's Texas itself or one of these other schools. That's the vibe I get from him, but we'll see. Tyson Bacon, the defensive tackle from Hoover, Alabama. Sash, I know you talked to him. Like him, lean, athletic guy. Seems like Florida and Miami are the teams battling for him, and he still's got some big visits coming up, including Alabama.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up my notes from his interview right now. I mean, he spoke very highly about the university, talked about how much of a great relationship he's developed with some of these other recruits, talking about Jordan Campbell is a guy that he would love to have as his linebacker, makes his job a lot easier on the line, and just the guy that really looked the part, lived up to his measurements, and just talked about, again, very highly about Coach Taylor, very highly about the staff, the relationship. And I think this is one where Miami is trending in the right direction for.
Yeah, no, excited to see that recruitment continue to develop. I think that's going to be a battle, right? We'll see how it goes. Miami's in the mix there. Braden Robinson, the wide receiver from Dallas, Texas, really speedy kid. I, I know Gabby mentioned he's on Notre Dame. I can see that, the Notre Dame was kind of in the lead going in, and Miami made up ground, but maybe not enough ground. So I'd probably agree with him there on Notre Dame for Braden Robinson, but Miami's got a chance. And overall, I do sense optimism at the wide receiver position in general. Was that legit? We'll see, but I don't get a negative feeling there. A wide receiver overall. Some good guys visiting next weekend. Some good ones visited this weekend, and we had Robinson this weekend and some good ones last weekend. So we'll see. But he's intrigued by the slot receiver position. Looked about 5'8", 5'9" in person. Small. I know someone said 5'7". I don't think so. I thought he was probably more than that 5'8", 5'9" range, but elite speed, highly productive, great returner. Parents run the trip. Very nice people. I get the sense. Yeah, I'd bet Notre Dame, but Miami's in that game.
Yeah, as you said, it's when a guy talks about how Miami kind of surprised him, you could obviously tell that there's really another team in the lead there for the most part, and obviously that's Notre Dame, where he has a visit upcoming. But it's great to hear how the staff had a very laid out plan for him, especially at the slot position. Went through tons of film about Xavier Restrepo, so he's able to see a guy kind of at his size, at his height, exactly, that was able to be one of the best wide receivers Miami's ever had, and now go on to play in professionally. So I'm nothing really too much to write home about there, but I think there's growing optimism in general at the wide receiver position for Miami.
Yep. One name that I think I feel good about getting in this class, Cannon Pickett, 6'4", 320 from Tampa. His dad was on the visit, Miami grad. His brother, Booker Pickett, was on the visit as well. Obviously, he's here at Miami, so there was nowhere for him to go, but he was there with the recruits and stuff and the family. Multiple family ties. I think Clemson wanted him to be a part of that offensive line class, but they sewed up shop. He did not commit there. They got other commits on the interior offensive line. So I don't know this for sure, but I guess Clemson's probably out of it for him. And he says he's still going to visit Florida, I believe, or at least he has Florida on deck. But I like Miami for Cannon Pickett. Nothing's changed there. And I think there's a lot of potential there. Kolojay, I should say, is going to be much more likely to play right away. But Pickett's got a wide frame. He's a great athlete. A very good athlete. He's not like a tackle athlete necessarily, although he plays in high school. That's interior-wise, he's a good athlete and has some size, has great genetics. I feel pretty good. He was acting like a commit on the visit. So I'd be surprised if Miami did not land Cannon Pickett, and I don't think that impacts Kolojay or anything like that.
Yeah, as you said, he kind of just talking like a commit already, talking like a guy like Jalen Waters, Joel Irvin, Jordan Campbell, just very not overly what's the word I'm trying to look for here? Not trying to yeah. Like isn't like he wasn't trying to make Miami higher too higher than it is, not trying to just give things to reporters that way, but just really straightforward on that he's been here his whole life, talks about very straightforward with it and how much he enjoys and could see himself being a Miami Hurricane. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if you get both him and Breck Kolojay. So I could see those two rounding out the offensive line class there.
Kolojay. He says yeah. So we're working on that one. It's gonna be a work in process for both of us. So that one's one. Freddie Wilson, defensive tackle from Spruce Creek. I'll pull up his highlights now. 6'2", 265. You want to talk about guys that really like Miami. I think this is one that really seemed to love his visit. I'm pulling up his spring highlights, which I saw for the first time this morning. Very impressive just for one little spring jamboree. The guy was pretty much unblockable. You could see why Minnesota, which is a pretty good evaluating school, especially when it comes down to Florida, liked what they saw with Freddie Wilson. Teams like Georgia Tech, UCF, Houston in the mix there. And I think with the thinking with him as you watch again, this is just one spring jamboree. This is the latest film on Wilson. Not a guy that physically blows you away, right? But then I can see why he's rated as a 3-star. I think that's probably accurate based again on just the physical dimensions. and you look at the schools in the mix for him, I think that's kind of what you're looking at. But when you see him, first of all, his film here looks good from the spring. Seemed like a good kid. Seems to love Miami. He said Miami basically was number one on his list. I mean, you did the interview, so you could tell me here in a second. But I think when you see the kind of guys that Miami brings in through the portal for defensive line rotation help, is basically the Freddie Wilsons of the world, fully developed and a lot more expensive. So I think the idea is, and if this is what I think it is, to me, it's a very good idea and smart thinking is, let's get some more of these guys in the pipeline from a number standpoint so we can develop our own rotation guys and not have to worry about spending huge money to pay, a fourth D tackle like a Felly who visited from Boise State. Miami ultimately didn't go in that direction. We say, because they said, hey, we'll use Artavius Jones, some of these other guys, Armando Blunt, whoever, as our fourth D tackle, and hope we don't get decimated there, instead of paying a fortune and not being able to do some of the other things they did to get a player that's not that good. So the idea of stacking youthful depth that eventually can work its way into helping you and filling out your rotation makes sense to me. Wilson, I haven't studied him a ton. I liked what I saw in those spring highlights. In person, again, looks like a 3-star, not like a tiny guy, but he's not, a Justin Scott type body type, but he seems to love Miami, and I think Miami's gonna have a great shot there.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there when it comes to the fact that these are the guys that often slip through the cracks, and then 2-3 years later, you're wondering how this guy got out of Florida, got out of Miami, and we're having to try and pay a ridiculous return tax to get him back as a third or fourth defensive tackle. So from his film, I've really liked his film. There's a lot that you can develop there, for one. And he spoke very highly about Miami in the sense that Miami was his first kind of power offer, and how throughout the process, Miami's always stayed in touch with him, always developed that connection there. Like, that connection between a staff and a player on a personal level cannot go understated in how far it's going in these recruitments. It's one of the biggest factors that is pushing Miami to the top of these kids' lists. And I think that he still has a couple visits that he's taking, UCF, Houston, Georgia Tech off the top of my head. But yeah, I think that with how he talked about Miami, there was a lot to like there in what he was saying. And this is a guy that with the added scholarships that you're going to see going into the next year, that you can take guys like this, as we've mentioned about the other offensive linemen, that you can build a class like this and allow them to develop.
Yep. So that's one to watch. And then last on my list here, this is the last guy listed on the official visit chart, but certainly not least, Joel Urban from Fort Myers. I've always said he's kind of my 6-star in the class, rated as a 3-star. I don't think anyone's ever seen this guy to rate a 3-star. That just literally means you have not seen him. But seeing him in person, Sebastian, I think this is your first time seeing him in person, right? And you're seeing him amongst other big recruits, like physically big recruits. I mean, I see a guy with just elite size, 6'7", 330, arms that go down to his knees, 11-inch hands, sharp, carries himself well, no red flags from that standpoint. In fact, the opposite, and seems locked in and really loving this, the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that is fully lives up to his measurements, probably, and some. I mean, his frame's there, really big guy, stands out even amongst the other offensive linemen and whatnot. And just a really smart, well-spoken guy when it comes to the University of Miami, the recruiting process, everything about it, right? And he's a guy that is just criminally underrated as a 3-star. And I think that when he gets more eyes on him going into this next season, that ranking is going to go way up. And just looking at some of my notes here, he really felt like a priority, right? He felt like he was wanted here. Obviously, he talks about how he's kind of shut his recruitment down in a way that even with some other schools that see that talent, they're trying to get him. He's kind of just obviously being respectful in the process, but getting them to understand that this is home. He's going to Miami, and that this is where he wants to play his football. And I mean, you can't really go wrong with a guy that's practicing his stance outside of the lobby on an official visit day. So that's something you love to see.
And by the way, like and subscribe to the show. I should have mentioned this 50 times earlier. So Sebastian, you could work on it with me. The like, share, and subscribe. Just getting it plastered in your head like I've been trying to do myself for a while. Still hasn't fully stuck. But like, share, and subscribe to the show. Over 1,400 on live, man, on a Saturday afternoon. So appreciate you. I got my family at the beach. Half of them at the beach, half of them's in Orlando for a birthday party. I'm out here grinding with my man Sebastian, trying to take our minds off a tough loss. But again, I'm very optimistic on Canes baseball. We'll get into that for the rest of the week. But just sticking on recruiting here, overall, really appreciated just the effort of the staff and just seeing how they operate. You saw it firsthand, and I think overall, when I look at this visit list, everyone say, who's the next to commit? This is 2025. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars. It's not like the olden days. I think you're going to see full processes here, but I'll dig into the overall kind of intel from this weekend after the dust settles, but just my outside perspective as of now being in the room, but not talking to people behind the scenes yet, getting that debriefing. Obviously, you feel good about your commitments. Jordan Campbell, if he was a soft commit, you move into the solid commit category. And then the uncommitted names I'm watching: Devin Jackson, Breck Kolojay, Freddie Wilson, Cannon Pickett. Those are just some that jump out, but there's still more work to be done.
Yeah, for sure. This is something you're not really going to see this kind of just rapidly happen. I think that it's going to slowly build, and I think it's going to build in a big way.
Yeah, man. So again, like and subscribe to the show. Appreciate everybody joining us. We'll have some more baseball only stuff here going forward too with Sebastian. And then of course, the usual recruiting, football stuff you get in the daily show from us. So again, like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate everybody joining us here on the Saturday afternoon into evening. Or sorry, Sunday. Whew. I wish it was Saturday. Sunday afternoon into evening. We'll have the show for you though, bright and early on Monday. And we'll keep this thing rolling, man. Go Canes.
Go Canes.